This podcast, including all discussions and examples, is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any government agency or company. Today, we're joined by Ashley Brandt. With over a decade of industry experience, Ashley plays a key role in building and guiding one of the most efficient and knowledgeable sales teams in the industry. This is From the Dive Shop.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of From the Dive Shop. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Shipp, and with me today, Jen Edwards.
Good morning, Patrick.
Morning, Jen.
I am super excited to be here today, and we are thrilled to introduce Ashley Brandt, Inside Sales Manager for ADS.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super thrilled to be here too. Thank you guys for having me.
So let's start with something really important. You and I are both working moms. We are busy people with lots of extracurricular activities. I don't know how any of us do it, but particularly us. What's your morning like on a day like this?
Oh boy. Well, I walked in at 9 o'clock today, which is my usual routine.
We start at 8.
But it started
promptly.
Right. It started at 6 o'clock this morning, right? Just getting them out of bed is a feat in itself. There's always I forgot to charge my Chromebook, so let's try to get some juice in it for an hour while you get dressed and eat breakfast and prepare the lunches. And then, my son, who's my youngest, and he is a boy to the T, will come out and, sweatpants and a sweatshirt on a day where it's going to be 86 degrees outside. So we have to turn him back around to change his clothes.
They have no sense of that.
No, but it is easiest to dress a boy, I will say. It's like gray shirt, blue shorts, cool. My oldest, she's a preteen, so there's very specific things that they have
I
to
have a
put.
monthly Lululemon tithe, basically, for my daughter. So totally get it.
But yeah, besides that, one's in elementary school, one's in middle school, so they get on the bus at different times. So
Totally different times,
totally.
like hours apart.
Yes.
Insane.
Yep. So, the bus comes at like 8:50, and then I rush here as quickly as possible. But of course, we start at 8. So I'm tethered to my phone to make sure, if there's any pertinent emails coming in, Teams messages, which I received from you this morning, lot of them.
Yeah, at 8:15 for the meeting I had at 8:30, which is before 9.
Or any quotes that need to be approved, right? So, that's how. And I didn't mention I have 2 dogs as well. So, there's that whole side of.
So once you're done herding all the cats at home, then you start your day at ADS. And I know a little bit from experience that there's a lot of cat herding in your actual job that we pay you for. Can you talk a little bit about what you do? We haven't had an inside salesperson on the podcast yet. So if you could just walk a little bit through what your role is like.
Yeah, of course. We are, again, responsible for the inside sales team, and their job is quoting customers, bid submissions. So we are solely responsible for checking all of that information, making sure that, pricing is correct, that prepayments are good to go. And essentially, making sure that they are doing things the right way, right? With the world of contracting, there's all kinds of rules that come into play, right? Like, are we selling something from the right country of origin? Or if it's over a certain dollar amount, it has to be very compliant. Or what departments should they be engaging? Should it be logistics or legal to get through, a certain requirement, or when we need to involve contracts? So it's really just, ultimately we want to help them get where they want to go within the company, but it's just this is the basics, right? Just learning how to submit things to customer the right way, on time. And of course, there's after order things that happen, right? If equipment doesn't get there on time or something got messed up in shipment, right? Who do they need to involve in those things? So it's their job does not stop when a sale takes place, right? It is full circle, making sure customers happy, they get exactly what they want.
So obviously, we want to hear about you and how you got to where you are. But I have to soapbox for a second about something about ADS, because I know this is an ADS podcast. we talk a lot about our outward-facing business development salespeople, and the fact that we have so many of them is an amazing boon for all of our customers because we've got so many experts that are out there in the field talking to them. But I have always believed that the real secret sauce for ADS is this inside sales staff, because that's the hard part, right? Anybody can go out and sell. I'm not saying it's easy, but anybody can go out and sell and meet with customers. We've invested in a massive internal force that does everything, but not the least of which is making sure that once that sale's done, the customer really gets what they need. And I think that's a massive differentiator for us as a company, that we don't just sell and then hit the road. We sell and then it goes to this team of highly skilled, really well-trained, really just very professional sales folks internally that have to follow every teeny tiny piece to make sure when it gets there the right way. And I just get really excited about that, because any of our competitors that are listening to this, you guys should probably invest in that, because that's the difference maker. Anyway, is this my show now?
No. And listen,
That was great. I can't follow that with anything.
I know we're going to get into, how I got where I am, but I did spend a lot of time as an inside rep prior to being in the seat that I'm in. And anytime I had, a new outside rep join on, one of the first things I said to them is like, look, your job, you are the hunter and gatherer. I'm going to cook a 5-course meal and serve it on our finest china, right? So that way they knew. And of course, those responsibilities overlap at times when things get busy or, people are out of the office.
Well, and that's the interesting part, because we're asking those same people to also outbound hunt and gather. Unsung heroes, in my opinion.
Yes, they are the captain of the ship. They are the pilot.
So
The pilot?
The pilot?
Of the ship?
No, I was referring to different branches of the military. Like one's the captain of the ship, one's the pilot.
What is it in the Army?
The driver of
the command sergeant major or something like that. So can you talk a little bit about your life before ADS?
Sure. So born and raised Virginia Beach. Prior to ADS, and I'll kind of go off a little bit, I just realized that in a few years, I will have been with ADS longer than I've been without ADS.
Wow.
Let that sink in for a second.
It's because you're so young.
Right, exactly. I started when I was 16, so I was, legal. No, I had just graduated from college, and, I had worked in retail before. I had had sales jobs, promotion jobs. I worked at a radio station doing promotions prior to ADS. But after college, I actually postponed my job search because I wanted to try out for American Idol.
Heck yes, you did.
That's the story I've been waiting for.
Yes.
I bet it is.
This is making it all worth it.
I bet it is. I mean, clearly it didn't pan out. I'm here with you, fine folks,
But
17
did you try?
years later.
Did you try out for American Idol?
Yeah, I tried
you
out.
got out there.
I tried out.
What was that like?
Yes,
Oh
tell
my
us.
gosh.
What did you
So
sing? How was it? Can we find the video on YouTube?
No, thank God.
And will you sing for us before this episode is over?
I'll think about it.
Okay.
No, so American Idol actually came out my freshman year of college. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to go. And she was like, please, Ashley, just get your degree first. And if this show is still on TV, have at it. And I'm like, okay, cool.
This flash in the pan.
Yeah. So I graduated. So I guess graduation is in May timeframe. And that August, they do auditions, not in every state, right? So it's, let's call it 8 to 10 different states that they hold auditions in.
Where did you go for your auditions?
So I went to New Jersey.
What a crowd. What a crowd I bet
know.
that was.
Listen, it was wild. I mean, they had everybody standing outside. We auditioned inside of a basketball arena. So, I mean, there were news helicopters flying around. We were there at like 5 a.m. in the morning. And then finally, when they brought everybody inside, you could bring one guest with you. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, I took him with me. And we actually had to be there 2 days prior to like pick up our package and a song that they wanted everybody to learn. Because when they're doing video footage inside of the arena, they do snips of like everybody singing the same song. and it was like a Barry Manilow song, something I've never heard before. So I had to learn this song before we went, and then they gave you a paper wristband, and it's like, it was literally a wristband that you would get at the club, and not something that like hospital. So for 2 days I was showering with cellophane around my arm because
Didn't want it to come off.
You
want to lose your place in line.
Exactly.
Chance of a dream.
So they bring us all in. We're sitting in this arena, and based off where you were sitting is when you would be auditioning. So I was like, I don't know, 3-4 o'clock that afternoon is finally when I was going to audition, and you could hear everybody in front of you. They had tables set up on the floor that were just separated by curtains. And they would just bring them up one at a time and say, okay, you start singing.
Were some people really awful?
Yeah, I mean, were you clowning some people?
Yeah, I mean,
Was
you
it-
definitely saw, right, this was when, like, there's Simon, the Paula, Randy, right, they loved the show. There was a gentleman in an astronaut suit. There was another one who looked like they were covered in, like, ferrets.
Sorry, was it a fur jacket?
No. It was just covered in, I don't
Fur?
know, a raccoon, there was like tails and stuff on it, Pat, I don't know. But I was very nervous, and I was thinking to myself, this was kind of dumb for me to come to New Jersey because you have the folks over here at Broadway who are just a hop, skip, and a jump away from this audition. And there were incredible, incredible singers that they were just like, nope, next. And so I'm like looking at my boyfriend / husband, and I'm like, I don't feel good about this. I have been singing my whole life, right? I have been in show choirs. I sang on cruise ships. We did performances in New York.
Sorry,
and
you sang on cruise ships.
we did competitions on a cruise ship. Yeah.
I feel like this is going to go south quickly. As
I
we
know.
get
This
into
might be a whole
part of her life.
other podcast.
We can talk. I've sung in Disney World a few times, so
Yes.
yeah.
And it's hot. There was a gentleman next to me in his patent leather shoes that literally exploded at SeaWorld. I heard poof. I was like, what's that?
Ferrets and exploding shoes.
it's a lot.
That's the name of the podcast. Keep an eye out for it.
So you get up there. It's your turn.
It's my turn.
How did it go down?
I think I got 10 words out before they were just like, nope, next. I was like, I can't believe you just invest this entire weekend into learning the song and getting signed up and patiently waiting for your turn. And yeah, it was over like that. And I mentioned I was working at a radio station at the time, and you don't even go to the floor to audition with your guest. So it's like I went through, they cut off your wristband right then and there. Just like,
See ya.
you're done here. And then they show you the exit. And I kind of just like made eye contact with my boyfriend. And I was just like, I don't even know. I blacked out. I don't even know what just happened. And like he met me by the exit door. But I had voicemails and missing calls from people from the radio station. One of which is like, hey, call me back. Am I talking to the next American Idol? And I was just, it was a silent ride home. But the silver lining was when we returned back home, we would always hang out with our friends at Hot Tuna. And so my husband or my boyfriend at the time was like, hey, let's just go hang out with your friend. I'll tell them not to ask about it at all. We'll just have a good time. And so I show up there and we walk back to the room, and all I hear is surprise. And I'm thinking, it's not my birthday. I'm thinking it's a pity party. I'm just like, it's so nice of you guys to be here. And I look over and my boyfriend's on one knee. I know. So yeah, I got engaged after that happened. He felt so bad for me. He went and bought a diamond.
And now you have 2 children, and he's still trying to figure out what happened.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's a great story.
So there's that.
That's awesome.
But okay, so we veered off of, I had sales jobs and whatnot before.
This is way more interesting, so that's okay.
So after American Idol, I was like, okay, I really got to get it together now. I'm getting married. I have to find a job. And an old volleyball coach of mine was working here at the time. So he was a PE and health teacher. I'd always known him to be in that profession. And my mom said, I think he's like selling equipment to police officers and firefighters now. And I was like, that is such an interesting career change. I'm going to go meet with him and just catch up, right? So I came in, we had lunch, and I knew that there was a sales position that they were looking to fill pretty quickly. And as I was leaving that day, I got pulled aside and said, hey, do you have time for a quick interview that I was not prepared to do, but did it anyways. And I was offered a job that day, and I haven't looked back since. Crazy. I know. I called my dad from the parking lot. He said, this is not real life. Like, you don't just get handed a job. And I was like, I know. I'm going to prove myself. Just wait for it.
I got hired on the spot at King's Dominion one year.
I see that.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I worked on the Anaconda.
Oh, were you a character?
Oh, no. I mean, I am. Yes,
You are
still,
a character.
right? But I just walked around and yanked up on the shoulder harness to make sure it was in there and you weren't going to fly out.
That is
Did you ever-
a very
did you ever get
important
it wrong?
job.
No. But there's something too, it slipped, whoops. You definitely have those days. And you'd be surprised how done up people get to go to King's Dominion. And boy, when they come off the Anaconda, they do not look like they did when they started. Boy, hairs everywhere, fingernails missing. It's crazy. So
They need to add that to the safety briefing. Make sure
goodness.
your fingernails are all intact.
That's right. I thought you were just going to lose your glasses. So what was that role? So you started in a
Yes.
inside sales
Yep,
role
yep.
then? And then can you kind of talk a little bit about that? So 17 years, you've had several roles within the organization, all on the sales floor. Could you
Yes.
talk about some of that?
Yeah, so you're correct. It was an inside sales job on the Army team at the time. So this was
The best team, right?
The
Jen?
best
I think that's the
team.
best team, yeah.
which was prior to any type of, I know we've had the SDA program. We've also had special projects. So this was here's your notebook. Figure it out. And
First
figure it out I did. Yes. No, I had, yes, we live in a town. It's a heavily populated military town. So that was kind of my tie to the military. So I did not know the lingo at all. I had a list of all the acronyms. And, just one day when it clicks, and I got off the phone with, saying all the acronyms, right? We were really jiving, and it was kind of just like, who just heard that? And of course, everyone's gone for lunch, right? And I'm just like, okay.
Hey,
It's a fascinating thing because you start out the first 6 months, I think probably in defense in general, you start out truly not understanding what people are saying. It's a completely different language. And then one day you catch yourself utter one of those sentences that doesn't actually have any words in it. And you go, aha, I have arrived.
Yes, it was one of those moments. And then from inside sales, I was promoted to senior inside sales. So I did that for a few years. And in that position, that just allowed for more responsibility to mentor other inside reps, more authority when it comes to, approving things that go out the door. And, it came to a point where I was kind of interested in seeing what else there was to offer. And that's the great thing about ADS is there's so many places you can move and grow. So I actually hopped over to the market side of the house where I became a category manager for C4 ISR, which is now, of course, C5 ISR.
We added a C.
Yes. And did that for a few years, not because I didn't enjoy it. I just love talking to people in general, customers, suppliers. I love to know their story, and I love hearing about their products. This was more of a personal thing that I had to do. That particular role was a lot of travel. My husband at that time was traveling a lot too. We had 2 kids under the age of 2, and it's just like our relationship was in passing. It's like, I'm gone Monday through Wednesday. Cool. I'm gone Thursday through Friday. So it just got to a point where like, this is not maintainable. And I raised my hand to say, okay, I'll be the one to kind of take a step back if I can. And luckily, I was welcomed with open arms to go back to being a senior inside rep, which I'm just so thankful.
Just so you know, the Army team will take you back any day of the week when you're ready. You're ready.
Got it. Noted. Thank you. But I mean, he could have done that too, right? It wasn't because, I'm the mom and, we had to do that. That's just at that time what worked best for our family, because you do have to find the balance and the algorithm of, this second job that you have outside work. So yeah, went back to being a senior inside rep on the Army team for a while. And then a position was created for a few of us called critical account development, which if it's kind of like junior outside sales, right? We had the ability to travel and meet with customers, develop opportunities, be the face of ADS, but we were still managing all of the quotes and whatnot. And it was challenging because 2020,
Right.
we couldn't travel to meet with these customers. So, I mean, day and night you were on the phone with these folks, and in a normal time, yeah, we still would have done the same thing. But I mean, just, people couldn't get their hands on thermometers, gloves, antibacterial. So people were just working around the clock just to make sure people could get thermometers.
I remember spending, I think it was when we were on the XPED team together. I remember spending probably a full week and a week of 20-hour days, because when they needed something, we couldn't go anywhere, but we had to make phone calls. Our whole team sourcing mobile morgues. Yeah. Ended up not selling any of them. The DoD found other ways to get that done. But I remember being like, okay, this is what we do now, and just being on the phone trying to track these things down.
Yeah.
And it was everything from masks and thermometers to requirements as large as a full morgue that could sit in a street. It was just, that was a crazy time.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
But for our role with the DoD, it was just a really interesting period where everything was chaotic and not a lot got done at the same time.
Yeah. They did keep that position in place in 2021 because we couldn't really tell if it was working or not. But they ended up going back to the inside rep, outside rep structure. And after that, I think we did that for another year. And after that, an inside team lead position opened on the market side of the house. And I was like, okay, I've been with the Army team for at least 10 years. Like, let's see what else is out there. I want to learn more. I want to grow, which I didn't know at that time. Jen. So Jen was our director for Hot Minute, and I love Jen. I love her so much. I look up to her as a professional and a person and a mom. And I secretly was kind of waiting for our team leader at the time to be like, when are you going to move on so I can take this spot? But so a team lead position did open on the market side that I ended up interviewing for, and I got that job. And then the team lead of the Army team.
I remember that. I remember being like, don't go yet. Just hold on a little longer.
But no, it's really worked out. It's helped me grow as a person. And I like that, like, coach, mentor role. I really miss working with customers, because now it's more hands off. Like, I can give advice to the inside reps on how to, toggle certain situations and the do's and don'ts. But yeah, it's been good for me, and we've been doing that for 3 years. Yeah.
So 17 years in defense sales.
Yes.
What's the weirdest thing you've sold?
Oh, gosh.
Or anyway, attempted to sell. Like, I know at one point, I think we were quoting, I think we quoted out livestock at one point. I vaguely remember that back in the day.
Well, that was not me.
Goats.
Yeah, goats.
Goats.
Goats. What, so I'm not crazy. It was goats. Yes.
I don't know that I've ever had like something that's truly weird. I sold a fire truck,
That's cool.
and it's not like a full-blown fire truck. We're talking about an F-150 with a chassis on the back, but it was still kind of cool to say I sold a fire truck. Mm-hmm. I've sold rescue boats. Weird. I don't know that I have any.
Okay, well then now you have a goal.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. But cool things,
Right.
I've sold all day. And now being on this side of things, right, like I get to witness people selling really cool stuff, like, wafers that they're selling. in the aerospace world, like simulation and just like the technology that's out there is super cool, guy. And like I want to say that the things that we sell, right? It's not. Yes, it's all very cool and innovative and the best on the market, but like it starts somewhere, right? Like with the clothing that we sell. We're aiming to lighten the load, to get them moisture wicking and Kevlar, what's going to make them most comfortable doing their job. And then that turns into, okay, what equipment do they need to train with to make sure that they know what they're doing and they feel good about completing the mission? And then the last phase is, okay, we're selling equipment to them that are going to take them into combat and, help them ultimately complete their mission. And not just like the housing, the fobs and everything to make them as comfortable as possible. Because all the time I think about the spouses and the children and the parents and, what they must be feeling when their, children or spouse are going into combat. Like, I feel like that's somewhat of a peace of mind for them to know that they have the best.
Absolutely.
Best.
I have an ongoing joke with my team that just go sell socks. We joke about the fact that, no one's getting to whatever goal by selling socks. Although we did have a rep one year sell something like 50,000 pair of socks and he got to goal. But I've made that joke before and then talked to a former soldier who was saying that socks matter. I mean, we joke about it, but literally everything, I feel like everything that we help provide helps improve the quality of life. And if you're comfortable when you're standing on guard duty because you have socks that aren't making your feet get blistered, if you have to get into a combat situation, you actually are slightly more prepared to run and shoot and do the things you need to do. So, we joke about selling socks, but it all matters.
They matter.
It all matters.
So could you talk a little bit about like some of the things that have, when you really felt like the transition from, hey, this is my job, that I'm working on, like American Idol was a bust, but I'm not giving up on that dream.
Yeah.
But like when did ADS really become like that career for you where you're just like, hey, this is where I really want to be?
Yeah. Again, I started very young and just like.
I was doing the math. Probably you're 33. You started at 16. Is that right?
I was 23. So a lot of people at that age, they're still trying to figure things out, right? So admittedly, when I started here, it was just a way to make ends meet, right? This was my job. And within, 2 or 3 years, like I felt like I was good at it. It was important to me, the people that we were serving, and I was, doing what I was supposed to be doing. I had this customer who had called the last day of September, and they needed equipment for deployment, and they weren't registered for this.
And a quick aside for anyone who doesn't know, if you're not part of the industry, September 30th is the government's shutdown date for spending their money each fiscal year. Anything they don't spend by midnight on the 30th goes away. So it's a really crazy time for them to get things done. So just to...
Thank you. So they weren't registered for the contract vehicle that they needed to use. And, we kind of just put a plan together. I was like, I think you should send your registration form, your order form, and your funding all at the same time. And, I'll get with my contracts team. They're a liaison to DLA to make sure like it was received, to try to make this go through. And it was received in time. It came out to bid. Everything was delivered in time. And a few months later, I was able to visit the post, and I got to meet the customer for the first time. And he and their leadership presented me with this like poster of their unit that like their leadership had signed, and they were just so thankful. And I remember that plane ride home thinking to myself, that made me feel like I just made such a difference, right? Like you think about careers like the most honorable job is someone who raises their hand to serve their country. But you think of other jobs, right? Like teachers, I respect that. They're making a difference. Doctors, never did I think that what I was doing, like even if it got to be an ounce of the equation of me making a difference. And in that moment, I was just like, oh my God, this feels amazing. this just went from being my job to my career. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Oh God, so good.
I know you like
So
stopped
good.
answering. Are you okay?
Yes.
So good.
And I
getting a little
still
verklempt,
have that poster. It's framed in the team lead office. So come by and check it out.
Maybe we will.
Yeah.
Come by after this. We have
Okay.
a Teams meeting in there. What are some other challenges that you see? You mentioned that like kind of that end of the fiscal year, customers are calling, they've got these requirements that they weren't able to get done. But, when you think about even just the whole year, what are some of the challenges that you see customers face that you're really able to help with, where not only you and your team, but ADS excels?
Sure. From the customer side of things, they definitely need items to train and complete their mission, but they don't always have the funding to do that. So, we try to help them be prepared as possible. And, we typically will give them a quote and explain, this might be unfunded now, but, if you have it and funding drops, you'll be the first in line to receive this equipment. So there's that route. But then there's also things, customers come to us and they don't necessarily know what they're looking for or if this product even exists. So I love being the liaison of here are the options. Like these products do exist because just like us, we don't know what we don't know is out there. So to be able to give them options to fill the void of what they thought was not possible is really cool as well.
So, Ashley, what have you seen over the years that you've been in the defense industry? What have you seen significantly change, would you say?
So I always tell people on my team, right, we always live in the gray because contracts are always changing, contract rules are always changing. Equipment, customers, always changing, right? On the vertical side of the house, it was like we had a person that we were talking to and helping, and then 4 to 5 months later, they got another job and they moved to a different state, and you're just reintroducing yourself over and over again. We were talking about how some years they might buy equipment, and the next year they're solely looking to do training.
17 years ago, we weren't selling drones.
No, we
Right?
weren't. We weren't in the FES world, right? The FES contract was new. The number of contracts that we have and our capabilities to really help a customer from cradle to grave has changed. From a woman's standpoint, it was really freaking cool to live in a time where women were able to be in combat, right? So that's just been over the past 10 years. They could do other things within the military, but can we cuss on this podcast? I'm going to say badass.
I think badass is completely appropriate. Shout out. So speaking of badass, I profoundly look up to you. I've loved watching your career throughout ADS. No, it's been a pleasure seeing just all the things that you've done and the risks you've taken and the fact that they really have collectively very much paid off because you're awesome. And now you're a leader. You've been a de facto leader for a long time, but you're now in a role where you lead people every day. Can you talk a little bit about what's different about that? How do you like it? And if you could, sum up your leadership philosophy for us.
Ooh.
Prerequisite, that one.
Right?
I
That
know,
leadership philosophy
dang.
I
gets
wanna
them every
know, I
time.
wanna
Gets them every
know.
time.
I'm collecting for my book.
By example. I can't, when we have success, I can't, and I never will, take all the credit, right? Because I'm going to rewind for a second. So I've had many mentors in my life, but the ones that resonate, my parents who have been married for 45 years. And, I get a lot of advice from my dad. He was in a leadership role when he was still working for a very long time. So there's things that come up and, I want to pick his brain. And they always showed up for me. I played basketball, volleyball, field hockey, and softball, and I sang in show choir, and they never missed a single event. And I'm talking, both my parents had cancer when I was in middle school, and I remember my dad being wheeled out to a field hockey field just after having his thyroid removed to watch his kid playing a game. So showing up is big. Professionally, my mentor is, the late Levi Wilson, who was one of my best friends in this building. There's definitely a void that's here. He was a mentor to many, but just someone who kept it real.
I still start to cry whenever anybody brings him up.
But he kept it so real, and I would always go to him with situations, and he would see the glass half full, and just like, okay, I understand that you're angry in the moment, but like, let's think of it in this light. So just like staying calm and that glass half full, I really took to heart. And, as if I couldn't love somebody even more when that Walk with Warriors video came out, it was just, I was like, you're an angel on earth. You would never know his struggles of growing up, him walking 4 miles to the post office to meet the scout, to go to his first doctor's appointment at the age of 17, to where he, was in the Marines for 30 years before coming to ADS. It's just, what a pillar of a person. And I'm like honored that he was part of my life.
If you haven't seen that video, we'll make sure the link to it gets dropped in the comments for this, because he's extraordinary.
Yes.
And the number of ledges he's talked me off of in the 19 years I've been here is, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, is profound.
Yes.
Extraordinary. Be more like him.
Yes. Yeah. So from those two alone, I listen. I lead by example. I tried to give the glass half full, when they're heated in that situation, like I like to do that. Okay, if you were in the customer's shoes or if you were in the supplier's shoes, how would this make you feel about this situation? And I like to give real-time feedback on you need to be doing this moving forward. But I also feel I have a hands-off approach, because I feel like people also need to learn for themselves, to exhaust every option that they have to solve a problem before incorporating me. And then lastly, I like to have a freaking good time.
Heck yeah.
We like to giggle a lot, and, it just makes work fun. I love coming to work because of the people that are here. This is a family, and I know that everybody sees it in that light because of, the multiple yearly family events that we have, whether it's a baseball game or the pumpkin patch. We're bringing everyone together to celebrate. And then, of course, we're always celebrating and rejoicing in others' wins, right? I've worked in a sales organization where it was dog eat dog, right? Whoever gets to it first. But in this environment, it's very cool because you have the opportunity to build your own business in your designated territory, and then to see them succeed and hit their goal. We love to celebrate. We love to ring the bell and, play their favorite song as they're walking up. It's just a really fun environment.
There's our 2025 recruiting video. Just saying.
That's all I have. Any other questions, y'all?
I don't think so. Ashley, thanks for joining us today.
Of
Really
course.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
that was
me.
great. I'll always love spending time with you, and always love spending time with you. So thank you so much for joining us in this time's From the Dive Shop. We'll see you next time.